Before I start the episode, this is just a quick note to say that I am now accepting submissions for Volume 2 to Journal through April 31st, 2026. If you keep some sort of documentation or log or records or spreadsheet and are interested in sharing or publishing it, that is what Journal does. Volume 2 has a focus around food and consumption. You can learn more and submit at journal.net. Okay, I'm going to talk about what I ate last week, but first I have structured news and updates. The first thing is that America's Test Kitchen has purchased Food 52. I don't know if anybody cares about this or if you even read Food 52. I recently accessed a recipe from them for goat cheese ravioli. And I wish I could share this link with you. The photo is so blown out. It looks like a Martha Stewart 2014-esque. I mean, it's just like the most disgusting photo you've ever seen. It looks like somebody vomited and they took a flash photo of it and posted it on their website. So by that photo alone, you can tell that this website is going under even before they announce this. So along with this fall is the brand Dansk, which you might know them for their butter or milk warmer pan things, or the Schoolhouse brand, which sells quilts and lamps, etc. I don't know if anybody's going to miss Food 52. I think my mom will. She loves to send me clickbait articles from them. You won't believe this hack to make your ketchup last longer. Anyway, I guess that's really all I have for news and updates. Besides, I wanted to share my mashed potato hack, which I've done a couple times now. I think it's genius. I don't know why people aren't talking about this. When you're making mashed potatoes, you boil the potatoes in the water, typically. Take them out and mash them. Take them out and mash them or rice them into a separate bowl, a metal bowl preferably. And put that metal bowl over the pot of residually heated water that you boiled the potatoes in. And make your potatoes in a double boiler. It keeps them warm. That's just a thought. Because otherwise you put the potatoes back in the pot that you boiled them in and they sort of scald on the bottom. That's just a thought. That's not really a news or an update. Okay, next section is called listener feedback. My sister wrote to me about the fake sourdough phenomenon that I'm sure a lot of us are experiencing. And she confirmed that she looks at a lot of sourdough that she encounters in the wild to see what the actual ingredients are. And people are putting vinegar in the bread to mimic the taste of sourdough. So I do think that this is not quite a public health concern, but I do think there needs to be some sort of regulation for labeling things sourdough, because some people eat sourdough for health reasons because it is supposed to process the gluten. And so if you're mislabeling it, it's a problem. Okay. Ooh, I had another note. This is totally unrelated, but I'm wondering if anybody else gets scared when you are on a map application, such as Google Maps or Roller Coaster Tycoon, and you scroll a little bit too far and you find yourself in the middle of the ocean or like at the edge of the map. Do you get scared? Okay, let's move on to the main topic of the episode, which is New Year's foods. This was the week of New Year's that I'm going to be covering, so I did a little research because some of our New Year's traditions have been broken. I need to figure out what to eat for New Year's now. I went on a deep dive. Moose milk, the cocktail, the Canadian cocktail, came up as something that people consume. I had to look it up. Canadian whiskey, vodka or a dark rum, plus coffee or Kahlua, plus dairy, which could be eggnog, or milk, cream, vanilla ice cream, a sweetener, maple syrup or sugar, and a spice, nutmeg, occasionally cinnamon, or egg yolks. Sounds great. On theme with my family's eggnog obsession. See also is in the Wikipedia article, caribou, a mix of red wine, maple syrup, and Canadian whiskey. That sounds disgusting. Okay, this comes from the military. So let's exit out of that. I went on the New Year's Eve foods page, I think, on Wikipedia. I don't remember what it's called. But I did see that in Gaelic, the term for New Year's Eve, which I'm not going to say in Gaelic because I don't even know how to pronounce it. But in English, it translates to the night of the big portion. And there's a citation for this, which is the Encyclopedia of New Year's Holidays Worldwide by William D. Crump. He wrote that in 2008. I really love this term for New Year's Eve, night of the big portion. I think we should rebrand New Year's Eve to that. It makes me think of Big Night, the movie, which if you like food, you should watch. Stanley Tucci is in it. Cornbread is a New Year's food, obviously. I think a lot of people know that. So I did just decide to make cornbread this week, which I will get into. Pork and pigs are obviously a big New Year's Eve and day food. I guess mostly in like European and Western cultures. People eat marzipan pigs, which you should check out the Wikipedia page for marzipan pigs. It has its own page. I really love the picture that they share of marzipan pigs, which are mostly a giant pig head with a little body. I think that, when I was home for Christmas, we talked about what we used to eat. And when you had Christmas or whatever holiday with your bigger family in the 90s, everybody's families were bigger in the 90s. They were so big that you had to have a secondary holiday meat. Sometimes this was ham. And we don't do that anymore. My family will not eat ham with me. Brian's family hates pork, hates ham. We had ham with Brian's mom for New Year's Eve, and she had to pour yum yum sauce all over it in order to get it down. And I said, why are you making pork for everybody if you hate it so much? And she said, you have to, it's New Year's. I don't think that's true, but the more research I'm doing, the more I'm seeing it is a theme, but it's not required. Okay, so on this theme of ham, nobody will eat ham with me. I have to eat it alone. I decided that for New Year's Eve, we were going to do a recreation of the ham plate, which was called the country ham plate, I think, at the Dusex restaurant that Brian and I met at, actually. It was a Michelin-starred restaurant. It is closed. It's now a seafood restaurant, but it is located in the Talia Hall building in Chicago where you can go see shows. There's a bar in the basement called Punch House, yada, yada. They also had a really great item on their menu. They had a choucroute that contained duck confit, house garlic sausage, bacon, confit red potato, sauerkraut, and a caraway pickled apple. They also had harissa mussels, which were one of the best things on the menu. The ham plate that they did was, in my mind, it was more of a ham board. It was served on a large wooden board, came with 3 types of ham, and then it came with super thick, classic white bread loaf, like house-made, like a milk bread in a classic loaf shape, sliced super thick and toasted with butter. And then it came with more butter. So it was just ham and butter plate. And since I don't have an opportunity to eat ham with my family for the holidays, but pork is appropriate for New Year's Eve, I thought this was the perfect opportunity to eat 3 kinds of ham. Here's another update that I forgot to add. I talked about my family eating Katz's Deli sandwiches over Christmas. My mom ordered Katz's Deli through like Gold Belly or whatever those apps are called. I forgot to talk about the first and only time I've been to Katz's in real life. I was 12. I went with my dad to New York City. And he did lose me on the subway after this. And we got separated for a few hours. But before that, we went to Katz's Deli together. He ordered the corned beef sandwich, which if you know, it's like, I don't know, like 9 inches of corned beef in between 2 little pieces of bread with mustard. My dad was so mad about it. And I think this is more of a phenomenon. I keep seeing people on TikTok talking about this. Sandwiches that are too tall are inconsiderate, and you need to make sandwiches that people can eat. Okay, I will be getting into the New Year's food in more detail once we get there in my food log. Reviews and recommendations. I had an anonymous listener write in about a $27 wheel of cheese that they bought. I'm protecting their identity so that their spouse does not know that they purchased this. It's from a company called Rebel Rebel. They make vegan cheese. They sell 7 ounces of fake vegan cheddar for $27. By the way, this $27 wheel of cheese, I think it was like 8 ounces, maybe 7. Sorry, it was 7 ounces of cheese for $27. And correction, the smoked cheddar, I think was 4 ounces and it was 18. My question is, are there enough cheese-loving vegans with disposable income to support this business? I don't know. It seems quite steep and niche. I don't think that non-vegans are going to purchase vegan cheese. This made me think of the $33, $34 muffaletta that I encountered in my rural county of North Carolina, where at any given time, at least 20% of the cars on the road have a headlight out. That is the culture here. Single headlight culture is rampant here. And I just thought, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense to make a niche product like that if you have to price it that high. It's not economically sound. And then I do want to bring in a TikTok reference. There's a guy on TikTok called Jimmy I don't know how to say his last name, Maio. And he makes random videos like about like the explosion of the Amish population, or just news facts. I don't know what you would call them. He talks about like supply chains, or I don't know. Anyway, he talked about why Chinatown in New York is so cheap and how these restaurants are able to produce food so cheaply, which when I lived in New York, I survived. I mean, I wasn't starving, but I relied on Chinatown to feed me as a food worker working in the Lower East Side. I would go get dollar dumplings, or nothing was over $5, and it would fill you. It was enough food for the day, really. And he talks about why that's possible: centralized resources, supply chains, problematic low pay, relying on family labor, just having access to resources so you can make your product cheap. And I think when you are a small bakery / restaurant in a rural part of North Carolina where you don't have access to local products, Italian products easily, and you try and create a muffaletta, it's gonna be $30 or $40, and you probably shouldn't make it. Because first of all, it's not going to be good if you're not specializing in Italian sandwiches. And you should just stick to what you know and stick to what's local so that it's the most affordable for the people around you. People can drive 30 minutes into Durham and get an Italian sandwich if they want it. It's going to be cheaper there. That's my thought on that. Also, this bakery / restaurant changes their menu every week, which I think is not economically sound. In a lot of ways, it requires you to, first of all, it's a lot of labor to come up with that new menu and recipes and make a list of things to buy, new inventories. When you're constantly changing the menu like that, it puts a lot of stress and labor on your employees, extra time, but also you have to buy new things in. And then every week you're not going to use up everything perfectly. So you're either throwing that away, trying to figure out new ways to use this leftover product. It's just like added mental load and not a good use of resources, in my opinion. That is my thought. We should strive to make food as affordable as possible instead of trying to create Italian sandwiches in a rural county. Okay. I do want to talk about the Meghan Markle holiday special, but only in the context of the Tim Heidecker commentary that he released. I don't know if this is available to the public. Obviously the Meghan Markle holiday special it's on Netflix, but Tim Heidecker released commentary that you can play at the same time. It's really good. But I don't know if it's for his podcast Patreon subscribers or if it's publicly available. Full disclosure, I am a Patreon subscriber. And full disclosure, I have worked with Tim Heidecker. I think he's really funny, but I did work with him on one of the least funny things he's ever produced, the movie The Comedy. I think we made it in 2012. I was an unpaid art department PA. It's an awful movie. It was a lot of fun to work on. It was completely improvised. It was super interesting, but not his best work. So, back to the Meghan Markle holiday special. I think we can all agree that, I don't have a ton of opinions on Meghan Markle. I don't understand her. She's the epitome of millennial cringe. It's a hard watch. It's a hard watch without the Tim Heidecker commentary. He makes it all the while worth it. Tom Colicchio is a guest. 11 Madison Park guy, Will, is a guest, who is married to Christina Tosi, who I have to release these disclosures. I worked for her. And she calls in and they make Christmas crackers together. This was a tough watch. The only redeeming factor was Tom Colicchio came in and cooked some Italian holiday favorites from his family, which was fun. I'm a Tom Colicchio fan. And this inspired me to create, this is something I've had on my mind for a while, but I will give Megan some credit that this sort of re-inspired my will to create compostable, no storage Christmas decorations or holiday decorations for the upcoming year by making dried orange slice garland and ornaments, or seashell garland. Actually, on Sunday, I walked down to the river. I live on a river, and I walked down there, and I know that there are like native mussels in the river and whatnot, and otters, aquatic things. I found a pile of oyster shells on the bank, and I thought, oh my God, some sort of raccoon or critter found all these oysters in the river and ate them and piled their trash on the bank of the river. And I was so excited. I gathered them up and I was like, I'm going to make garland out of this. Like I manifested these oyster shells. I showed them to Brian and he said, yeah, that is trash from my parents that they dumped into the river. So, yeah, obviously oysters aren't in the river. Um, I don't know what I was thinking. I am going to keep them though and do something with them. They are quite beautiful. Okay. I'm moving on to some Lalabo updates. Again, scent is taste. So I think that this fits into a food podcast a little bit. So my sister has access to Lalabo samples. So she got me a bag of samples for, I don't know how many I got, but I am slowly trying them and I have some thoughts. Okay, I'm actually wearing the Tonka flavor today, which I heard, I think my sister described it as like that old school Old Spice Christmas scent, which I was excited about. I get what she means, and I do agree with it, but really to me, it smells just like the Prada infusion, the Iris infusion, Infusion d'Iris or Diri, whatever, I don't know. Which is a perfume that I still have, which I purchased, I think, in high school or college. I love it. It's so dry. It has notes of cedar. It's very woody and floral, but sparkling and dry. And Tonka has all of those notes, which I love. But it does have like a vanilla Tonka finish. I like it. I don't know if it's my top, but I do enjoy it. I think I would rather get the Prada perfume. Neroli, I really like. Neroli is super beachy sunscreen, freshness of lavande, but with a powdery soft finish, white floral notes. I really liked it. There's something about, I don't know what it is that is the same thing between neroli and lavande that I love so much, but something in there that reminds me of the beach. Okay. Lys, Lys, smells like zebra stripe gum, which was discontinued last year, unfortunately. This is going in my perfume jail. I don't want to promote the idea of imprisonment or make fun of imprisonment, especially the idea of imprisoning things for not being in agreement with me. But I have found it a perfume jail, and this one is going in it. It smells like an old basement. Yeah, again, I don't know how to pronounce these. Ylang, Ylang. Also going into the perfume jail. Musky and damp. As I'm continuing to sample these scents, I am very rapidly realizing that they are all just the same variations on like the same 6 components. And it just feels like they took a bunch of mixing jars and just kept mixing them back and forth and released a bunch of perfumes out of them. Okay, time to talk about the Martha Stewart channel that I'm watching. I have some highlights for you. Every time I'm making or eating cookies and I turn on her channel, she is making the cookies that I'm eating or thinking about, which is quite strange. Right after I was talking about the Katz's black and white cookies that I ate in abundance over the winter break, I turned on her channel and she was making them. The last time I had the Carabelli, turned on the TV and she was making them. I did check out the black and white cookie Wikipedia, which again has an incredible flash photo of a black and white cookie from maybe like 2005. I love when a Wikipedia page has a really unexpected section in it. So you're on the black and white cookie page, pretty normal, the history of it. And then you get to a section called As a Racial Metaphor. Not what I was expecting. Anyway, I love black and white cookies. And back to the Martha Stewart channel. So she invited a man named Jason on to make navy bean pie, which she said was from Chicago, but failed to mention the origin story beyond that at all, which is connected to the Nation of Islam. Brian was watching with me, and he said that they used to hand these pies out in Chicago, the Nation of Islam community, but they stopped for some reason. I don't know. Anyway, Martha invited this guest on, introduced him. Very shortly after, she looked at him and told him that he looked like a 12-year-old with a beard. Super unfortunate, very awkward. He didn't really know what to say. She was right, but I feel like that's not something you should say to somebody. Okay. TikTok updates. I don't know why I wrote this, but Ella Quittner, I think actually she wrote for Food 52. Maybe she doesn't have a job anymore. She's coming out with a pancake book, and I saw some of her pancake testing on TikTok. She seems super thorough. I appreciate someone diving down a rabbit hole and testing things. Seems like her conclusion is you need to do an egg white lift for the best fluffy pancake. Okay, in my laziness, my TikTok section is just links, so I'm going to have to click on them and see what they actually are. So let's click on this link. Oh, okay. Panaderia Morales, which sadly is closing. I think it's anyway, I thought this would look like a beautiful bakery. They do super high hydration bread. I think they make Galician bread. And it's sort of like in a bird's nest shape. I thought it looked great. It's very unfortunate. Okay, moving on. These aren't very interesting, but ooh, okay, here's a review from a guy. What's your name? I've seen you before. Newspeak Media or Newspeak Media. Newspeak. He went to the Seed oil-free restaurant inside the Jeep dealership in Tampa and reviewed that. I recommend that you check that out. I've been getting, I don't have a link for this one, but I have been getting a lot of Vietnamese fried spring roll videos or stretch fried dumplings, which I would really like to eat. I saw one person, when you're making the Vietnamese fried spring rolls, instead of dipping the rice paper in water, she dipped it in beer and claimed that it helps fry in a more crispy result. I don't know if that's true or not, but I am willing to try it. Okay, here's my last link. Ooh, saw this one last night. QMU Food. Russian caption. I don't know where they are. Russian language caption. This person is making starfish shaped meringue cookies that are filled with a cream and some sort of jam or jelly. And then the starfish have eyes on them. There's something about, I think I was like lacking minerals or some sort of ingredient in my diet. There was a period of time where all I thought about was just eating a bowl of whipped cream. And it's sort of in the last month turned into me craving meringues. Like I just want to eat a pavlova by myself. I just want to eat whatever these cookies are. And I do have leftover egg whites from, why do I have leftover egg whites? I made pasta and I used a bunch of egg yolks. So I have all these egg whites. I thought I could make a personal pavlova. But I think I'm going to save them because I have a lot of, I'm going to talk about a 5-pound eye roast that I had to deal with this week. And I sliced some of it thin and froze it, but I'm going to try and tenderize it with these egg whites, I think. I think that's what I'm going to do. Trying to be economical. Okay. Second to last topic, 2025 bingo card failed. My 2025 bingo card failed for last year. I don't think I'm going to do a 2026 bingo card because the year's crazy enough already. You can't even come up with this. If I were to do a 2026 bingo card, I would probably include something about Bonefish Grill filing for bankruptcy. Because who is eating there? And then the marketplace updates. I'm still looking for cocoa powder. Serious Eats did again, Stella Parks from Serious Eats. Thank you for your work. Did a review of the best Dutch cocoa powders. I mean, I don't know why you can't get anything in grocery stores anymore. She recommends the Drost, which was actually in my mind. I was like, that's the one I want. I can't find it on Amazon for I can barely find it online except for these stores I've never heard of. And it's labeled as the grocery store brand in this article. I've never seen it at a grocery store. Maybe I need to go to some better grocery stores. Okay, so I'm still on the hunt for cocoa, and we'll probably just end up buying the Whole Foods brand. It is organic. Anyway, okay, I'm going to go into what I ate December 29th, 2025. It was a Monday. Okay. 9 a.m. counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 10:30 a.m. bran flakes with Kelowna whole milk. 2 p.m. pretzels. 5:30 p.m. Screamin' Sicilian frozen pepperoni pizza. 8:30 p.m. Dietz's milk chocolate pretzels. I don't know why I mentioned that the whole milk was Kelowna. I think I just get excited about it. I mean, when you look at the other milks, for what it is actually reasonably priced, and it has a cream top. I think it's worth it. I wish it was not in a plastic bottle, but what are you going to do? I do have to call out this Screamin' Sicilian frozen pepperoni pizza, which was terrible. I take back my review, my former reviews. I think when you're purchasing a Screamin' Sicilian, you do have to buy the thin and crispy because it's just a normal frozen pizza. This was incredibly thick. It was misshapen. I think maybe it defrosted and refroze again. When I cooked it, it burnt before all the cheese cooked. I don't know what was going on with it. I also think it made Brian sick. Okay. December 30th, 2025. It was a Tuesday. 8 a.m. counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 12 p.m. leftover frozen pepperoni pizza. 1:30 p.m. a slice of cornbread with butter made at home. 5:30 p.m. leftover soup. 8 p.m. half a can of Bitburger Pilsner and Dietz's milk chocolate covered pretzels. Okay, I'll talk about cornbread. So there is a local mill near me called Red Tail Grains. They've really stepped their game up. They used to do mostly corn products, some beans. Now they have all kinds of bread. They have bread flour. They really have anything you'd ever want. So I love to support a local business. It's even easier to do so now because they have everything that you could want. They do ship. I would recommend checking out their stuff. So they have a cornbread mix, and I really liked the mix, but I didn't think that their recipe or their instructions were quite right. So I tried to reverse engineer their mix based on their ingredients list, and by stalking them and trying to figure out what recipe they originally used in the first place. They did make a blog post at some point about the Bon Appetit classic skillet cornbread recipe, which is a gluten-free all cornmeal recipe. So I knew that was probably going to be a good point of reference. So I think I pretty much reverse engineered it, and I can make the cornbread without buying the mix at this point. So here's what I did. 1 cup of flour, and of course I do need to convert this to grams, but for the sake of time, this is what's going on. Here are your dry ingredients. 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of cornmeal. I used the Red Tail Grains Bloody Butcher cornmeal. 1 teaspoon of Diamond Crystal kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 cup of sugar. Okay, now here's your wet. half a cup of brown cow maple yogurt, half a cup of Good Culture sour cream, quarter cup of Kelowna whole milk, third a cup of Brightland olive oil, 2 eggs. So you mix your dry, you mix your wet, you mix them together. Meanwhile, in a cast iron, I would say like a 9-inch cast iron or so, you melt 3 tablespoons of butter. Get that nice and hot. Pour your batter. I mean, not scalding. You get it. I lightly brown the butter, I would say. Pour your batter into the melted buttered cast iron and put that in the oven at 350 for about 35 minutes. Or until the internal temperature is around 200, 210 degrees. I do love to use a thermometer with baked goods and breads. I think it's pretty foolproof. And I did cook that on like a mid-high shelf in the oven. So that was good. That was a good cornbread, I would say. I really needed to use up this brown cow maple yogurt in my fridge. I did consider using it to marinate what is it called? Chicken, as like a fenugreek flavor substitute for a chicken curry. I'm glad I didn't, because this maple yogurt upon second taste is super sweet. A note about this recipe: if you were not using a sugary yogurt, I don't even know if I would up the sugar content. I think in my base recipe, it's half a cup of sugar, which I never do a full half cup. I always skim. This is kind of like the perfect blend of a southern and a northern cornbread to me. Like growing up with northern cornbread, that was basically cake, sugary, floury cake. But I don't like the straight up cornmeal southern version. I do think this is a good compromise. And I have made this for, well, I want to say southern people, but really it was a northern person who complimented this. So I don't know what to think anymore. Okay, I'm going to move on. A quick note to say, the soup that I made that I'm eating, this leftover soup that I talked about last week, forgot to mention that I did add a parm rind to the soup, which did make it really cloudy. December 31st, 2025, it was a Wednesday, 9 a.m., leftover coffee with half and half. 12 p.m., a spicy potato soft taco, Chipotle ranch crispy chicken cantina burrito, and a classic stacker with onions from Taco Bell in North Carolina. Okay, I had a really good Taco Bell experience the previous week. This was not good. Don't test your fate and don't try and recreate the magic of Taco Bell too often. The stacker barely had any onions. I have seen a woman on TikTok who requests extra onions on all her Taco Bell food and will drive back around in the drive-thru if you don't load it up for her. So my Taco Bell should take note. I think this crispy chicken menu item that they have, the Chipotle ranch was good, but I think it's better with the avocado ranch. I also think it's better as a soft taco than a burrito. The burrito gets too hot and soggy. The soft taco, everything stays crispy, including the cabbage. It's a better experience. And the spicy soft taco came with Chipotle ranch, which was really good. Okay, 7 p.m. Olive oil toasted La Farm sourdough, garlic and herb water crackers, wild dill, snow frisk, goat cheese, banner, garlic, parsley, and basil compound butter, jamon serrano, prosciutto, copa, Points Reyes toma, Uplands cheese, Pleasant Ridge Reserve, assorted olives, pickled Peruvian drop peppers, and a pour of Unibroue La Fin du Monde Tripel. Okay. This was my ham board, by the way, which I was very pleased with. Got most of this at Whole Foods. I never really gravitate towards any of the pickled peppers in their olive bar, but I was really into these Peruvian drop peppers. They look like bird baked peppers. And what else? I really like this point raised toma. Here's a description of it. Produced in Marin County, an hour north of San Francisco, point raised toma is made in the tradition of the great Italian cow's milk table cheeses, firm in texture with rich buttery and grassy flavors and a slightly tangy finish, ideal for snacking sandwiches, grating into pasta. It reminded me of a Havarti or a Gouda. It reminded me of a Baby Bell. I liked it. And Brian really likes this upland cheese, the Pleasant Ridge Reserve, featured in Top Chef. It's a driftless cheese, and if you're from the Midwest, you probably know the driftless region of Wisconsin and love it. So anything from the driftless, I love. What else? I really like this Snow Frisk. It seems to come on sale around this time of year. Let's see. Fresh, soft, spreadable, 80% pasteurized goat's milk, 20% cow, blended with herbaceous dill, along with salt, onion, sugar, and a hint of horseradish, creamy and smooth. I think they could up the horseradish on this a little bit, in my opinion. Love it, though. And then the La Fin du Monde. Let's check this beer out. It's asking me if I am above... Whoa, it's asking me, are you of legal drinking age in your jurisdiction? Yes. This rich and sophisticated golden tripel has earned several international titles thanks to its refined taste marked by notes of grains, fruit, and spice, supported by a slight bitterness. It is a tribute to Quebec, and then they describe what Quebec is. Thank you. Okay. I'm not a huge fan of triples. I don't know. There's something like... It reminds me of being in like a German beer hall in like early 2000s Williamsburg, or I guess late 2000s Williamsburg. 2009 Williamsburg German beer hall. Every beer that they wanted you to try had notes of banana and clove. And something about that, I don't know. Not for me. I would need something refreshing. So, I don't know. It was fine with the cheese board. I'm going to prefer the Bitburger. Super dry. Okay, January 1st, 2026. It was a Thursday. 10 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 12 p.m. Baked Cipollini fusilli with cheddar, upland cheese, Pleasant Ridge Reserve, point raised toma, Carr Valley Fontina, Somerset black truffle cheddar, cookout buffalo sauce, Dijon mustard, and Meyer lemon and garlic panko crumbs made at home, and a small pour of Bitburger Pilsner. Okay, let me talk about this before I finish the day. So woke up, slept in on New Year's Day, super excited to eat cornbread and make mac and cheese. Brian's parents call us and say, "Are you working today?" I said, "No." They said, "Are you going anywhere today?" I said, "No." They said, "Great, so you can come over for dinner." They Michael Scott dinner partied us. We had no choice but to go over to their house for dinner. So I made mac and cheese for breakfast/lunch, which was not the original plan, but it was fun. So let's see. First of all, it's Cipriani fusilli. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking about the mushroom. My mother gave me a bunch of Cipriani pasta for Christmas, as she usually does. So used their fusilli for this, and then I mixed up a bunch of cheeses together from the fridge. A little high-low action by adding some cookout buffalo sauce. And then I had some leftover Meyer lemon and garlic panko crumbs from that kale Caesar pasta salad that I made over Thanksgiving with my sisters. And that was perfect. One thing, I mean, there was some garlic in the panko crumbs. If I were to make this again, I definitely would have added more garlic. I think that would have just topped it over the edge, pushed it over the edge. It would have made it perfect. And I would have added more melty cheese. So I did reference the Serious Eats classic bechamel baked mac and cheese recipe for this, but here is what I did. I used half a pound of pasta. I think I basically halved this recipe, but not exactly. So I used half a pound of pasta, 2.5 tablespoons of butter, and a heaping 2 tablespoons of flour to make a roux, 2 cups of milk, about 2 cups of sliced or broken cheese. The original recipe called for 8 cups grated by volume for a 3 cup of milk ratio. I should have weighed this cheese and actually understand what I was doing, but I didn't. If I had grated the cheese instead of breaking and slicing it, it maybe would have been closer to 3 cups by volume. But anyway, bunch of cheese. Not enough cheese to flavor the sauce really well, but not enough cheese to get like a cheese pull, I would say. So thought for next time. Okay, what else did I add? 1 ramekin of cookout buffalo sauce and a teaspoon of Grey Poupon Dijon mustard, black pepper, half a cup of the prepared breadcrumbs, and dollops of butter on top. So I cooked the pasta until al dente and I tossed it with butter in a bowl. Actually, I tossed it with a bit of that Banner compound butter that I had left over and I need to use up. Then I made the roux, slowly added the milk until thick. Then I added the cheese, whisked until smooth, added it to the pasta. Of course, I added the Grey Poupon and the cookout sauce as well. I buttered 2 ramekins, filled to the top, topped with breadcrumbs and butter. Let me talk about these ramekins that I used first. My mother got me this 2-pack of stainless steel gratin. What do you even call them? Pans? They're from Madein, M-A-D-E-I-N. Very trendy. My mother loves it. So she comes 2-pack. You have the option of getting it stainless steel or with gold finish handles, antique brass finish handles, which I think are hideous. And gold handles needs to be abolished as a design trend. Okay, so these are high-grade stainless steel and a traditional oval French gratin shape. Ensure quick, even heat. Sorry, the grammar of this, it doesn't even make sense. Even heat distribution and browning. To give you the dimensions, one flaw that I had to note was they don't tell you the volume. So what I had to do was fill it with water and then measure the amount of water that it held, which is incredibly annoying. I'm not going to do calculus to calculate the volume for an oval based on length times width times height. Anyway, the volume is 400 milliliters or 1 2/3 cup. So, in case you needed to know. I baked these at 350 for 45 minutes with 15 minutes of resting time. They were good. I would have added garlic, more cheese. Okay, 6 p.m. Marinated pork tenderloin, sauteed spinach with garlic, hash brown casserole, and a cornbread muffin at Brian's parents' house. 8 p.m. Dietz's milk chocolate covered pretzels. So Brian was mad about this meal. He thinks that he ate undercooked pork. He thinks that it made him sick. The cornbread muffins were definitely a Jif mix. I know that taste. I think that the pork tenderloin was like the pre-marinated pork tenderloins in a plastic casing that you can get in the front of Food Lion. The hash brown casserole was interesting. I've never had something like this before. I think it was um, frozen hash browns with Velveeta and a few pieces here and there of some sort of corned beef. It was interesting. Not for me. And could have used maybe some, I don't know, like a quick fry. Okay, January 2nd, 2026. It was a Friday. 8:30 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 1 p.m. 2 Cajun Ranch chicken wraps and cheese curds from Cookout in North Carolina, Oxford, North Carolina. 5:30 p.m. Jangjorim with jalapenos and Cleveland Kitchen kimchi over jasmine rice made at home. 9 p.m. half of a Campbell's shortbread finger. Okay, I didn't have work this day, so I obviously went to Cookout because I went to the grocery store because, okay, here's the bulk of my day, trying to figure out what to do with this 5-pound defrosted beef eye round that Brian bought at Sam's Club in May. And I kept telling him, we need to do something with this. It has been in the freezer for too long. Over 6 months is too long for meat, in my opinion. In a lot of restaurants I worked in, it was like the bar is even higher than that, lower than that. You shouldn't have meat in your freezer for that long, in my opinion. I mean, it's just like degrades it. So Brian defrosted it and then went to work. And so I was left to deal with this eye round. I did not know what to do with it. I didn't even know what an eye round was. I had to look it up. Quick Google search will tell you to make roast beef. I was not about to make 6 pounds of roast beef. I thought, let me do like a country or chicken fried steak. But then I encountered a Serious Eats article which tested 4 cuts of steak for chicken fried steak. They tested bottom round, eye round, cube, or sirloin. They said, if you don't even bother using bottom or eye round, feed it to the dogs. That was like a direct quote. So that was out the window. There's a lack of connective tissue and general fat in an eye round. So using it for like a beef stew or a stroganoff is just risky because it can get tough. I saw like recipes for lomo. I think that's what the cut is called in Spanish, where people roast it with a bottle of Italian dressing. I'm not going to do that. So I went to the Wikipedia. They had some good suggestions of what to do with it. Biltong, air-dried beef. Yeah, people are doing a lot of air-dried salted stuff with this. London broil. Italian beef. Yeah. I would have done Italian beef, but I would need like nice peppers or giardiniera. That spicy JP Graziano's giardiniera that I had, that would have been perfect for it. Rinderbraten, which is a round steak stuffed with pork fat and spices. That sounded cool. I don't know. I was not going to do that. Steak and Guinness pie. Tafelspitz, Austrian dish of boiled veal prepared from the top part of the round. No. And then jangjorim, Korean dish of eye round boiled down in soy sauce, commonly braised with quail eggs or shishito pepper. So I decided that the jangjorim was going to be the best option for a couple reasons. First of all, I had 5 pounds to deal with. The jangjorim is sort of a preservation method in itself. Depending on how much salt you add to it, it can last up to a month in your fridge. So I thought that's what I'm going to do with that. So then I went down a rabbit hole with that. Eric Kim from the New York Times has a recipe which uses brisket, which bothered me. A lot of the recipes that I encountered didn't actually use eye round, which kind of bothered me because that seems to be the traditional cut. But I guess you have to up your game for New York Times recipe. I looked at the comments for this New York Times recipe, and there were a lot of complaints about the saltiness. I mean, I do think it is a salty dish. I compared his soy sauce ratio to other recipes, and he does use a pretty high ratio of soy sauce. And his recipe adds jammy eggs, which I did end up making for consecutive lunches utilizing this beef. Okay, so I went to the Korea Herald. I really liked this recipe. They said that it kept for 10 days in the fridge. And then I also referenced the mangchi recipe. I don't know if you've seen her videos, but her videos are fun. I watched her video and then I read her recipe. So she says that the saltier it is, she does a salty version that keeps for a month, but she does a less salty version that only uses about half a cup of soy sauce per pound of beef and which keeps for a week. And then she eats it with whole pickled garlic heads. Tongmanujang achi. I did take a year of Korean, but it has escaped me. Okay, so here is what I did. Here's my version of jangjorim. I had 5 pounds of eye round. I sliced about a pound and a half of it thinly and froze it for stir fry. The remaining 3.5 pounds I cut into about 6-ounce chunks. So for the final product, you want to shred it along the grain. So you want to cut it with the idea of the end product in mind. Like, how long do you want your piece after it's pulled from the grain? So I don't know. I wanted the pieces to be about 3 to 4 inches long. So I cut chunks where that was going to be possible. So I put those in a pot with 6 cups of water, brought it to a boil, boiled it for 10 minutes until all the scum comes up. And as is traditional in a lot of Korean recipes, I don't even know if it's traditional, but it's common. You then strain it and you scrub the meat and rinse it until the water runs clear. I returned the beef to the pot with 6 to 7 cups of water, fresh water, and I cooked it for about an hour until when you try and pull along the grain, it just starts to give. And the water should be reduced by half at this point. So at that point, I added a cup of soy sauce, 20 large fat cloves of garlic, some of them slightly smashed, 1 whole yellow onion sliced along the grain, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and I added a tablespoon of MSG. I cooked that until shreddable but still holding its shape, about an hour, and then I let it cool for another hour while I made rice. And then towards the end of cooking, right before I was going to turn off the heat, I added a 3/4 pound or about 8 jalapenos sliced in half lengthwise. And that was great. I served it with kimchi. I had some thoughts about this kimchi. First of all, no one in my county knows what kimchi is or is eating kimchi. So it was on deep discount, which was great for me. This is the first kimchi that I've liked in a while. I don't know about kimchi. I don't always love it, but I really liked this kimchi, Cleveland Kitchen. I think it was like the classic or spicy version. It wasn't the mild version. And I don't know, sometimes it just takes like one experience of trying a new version of something to make you learn to love it. This happened to me with sauerkraut. Some of our friends in Chicago gave us a jar of sauerkraut from Kepsels, Koepsel''. They're in Door County, Wisconsin, which is known for its cherries. Generally German influence up there. They have a lot of like preserved fish products that you can get, but also this sauerkraut, which really was the first sauerkraut that I was really excited about and sort of changed sauerkraut for me. I think also like eating sauerkraut in the right context, like eating it with a really fatty meat, made me realize, oh, this is great. Fun fact, I used to work at a now defunct pickle factory called Brooklyn Brine around 2012, I want to say. And I used to make huge batches of sauerkraut with a boat oar. We got a boat oar and I just pounded the sauerkraut and salted it until all the water came out. That was a really interesting company. Really a roller coaster of a ride there. I remember our owner was really into this woman in Poland and would just disappear sometimes to go find her in Poland. And while he was gone, the health department showed up. And we had just gotten like our first huge Whole Foods order. We had cases and cases of jars of pickles to go out with them that we were prepping. Health department showed up, said, where are your logs? Like, what's the pH of this? And I think the kitchen manager was also out because he had strep. So we were just sort of making stuff blindly. So we didn't have any of the logs. We didn't know where the log books were. And so the health department made us smash every single jar of pickles in the facility. We smashed pickle jars all day long into trash bags. And he stood there the whole time and watched and made sure that we smashed every single jar. Not even dispose, we had to smash the jars on concrete floor so that we wouldn't try and take them out of the trash and sell them. That was an interesting day. R.I.P. Brooklyn Brine. Okay, this Campbell's shortbread finger. Brian's parents went to Scotland. They brought back these tins of Campbell's shortbread in 2 different shapes. I tried the finger shape, very appetizing. This was in my Christmas stocking. It tasted like raw flour. So I'm probably going to not eat the rest of them. My cat really liked them. Okay, January 3rd, 2025. It was a Saturday, 10 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half, blueberries, hickory smoked bacon, and 2 sunny eggs over a slice of La Farm sourdough toasted in bacon fat made at home. 2 p.m. Garlic and herb water crackers with wild dill snowfrisk goat cheese. 4:30 p.m. Goat cheese ravioli and a tomato cream sauce made at home, and a pour of Saison Dupont. 6 p.m. Dietz's milk chocolate triple dipped malt balls. Okay, this goat cheese ravioli was fun. I have one of my early food memories from middle school, high school. I don't know how old I was, but I remember, I think we had just gotten a Whole Foods. Like, I don't know. It was still like 40 minutes from my house, but it was like the first Whole Foods around us. And my mom got a pack of pre-made ravioli that were filled with goat cheese. And they were like the best thing I'd ever eaten. I asked my mom to buy more. She said, no, they're too expensive. So I haven't had goat cheese ravioli since, but I've been thinking about them. And I just got this pasta flour from Red Tail Grains. And I thought, I'm going to make them. So here's the filling. I did 4 ounces of goat cheese, like a single goat cheese log, 2 tablespoons of the wild dill snowfrisk goat cheese, the juice of 1 lemon cheek, 8 shallots caramelized, 5 cups of mixed greens sauteed with olive oil and garlic, and then finely chopped, and then 1 egg. That was the filling. Then for the pasta dough, I used the Serious Eats fresh pasta dough recipe, which was 2 whole eggs, 4 yolks, 255 grams of flour. I used the Red Tail Grains pasta flour. And then I used a tablespoon of Diamond Crystal Kosher salt. Mixed that pasta dough by hand, which was a workout, and then I let it rest, rolled it paper thin, translucent, with by hand on a table with a rolling pin. For the sauce, I used a jar of the Gustiamo tomato sauce, 1/4 cup of heavy cream, squeeze of lemon, and salt, pepper, and parm to taste. This is an interesting tomato sauce that I got for Christmas. My mom likes to get me stuff from Gustiamo, which I guess is a store in the Bronx. I sell a lot of great Italian products. So this sauce is a collaboration, a special collaboration between Francesco Vastola of Maida Farm and longtime Gusti friend Danielle Glantz of Paistao Via Corta, a handmade pasta and Italian provision supplier in Gloucester, Mass. Gloucester? I forget how to say that. The big idea, take Danielle's own ready-made sauce recipe and sub in Francesco's tomatoes, carefully selected from the seed collection he's amassed over 35 years of farming. The result, a jar of pure Pomodoro bliss. Tomatoes perfectly balanced between sweetness and acidity, flavored with just basil, sea salt, and extra virgin olive oil. You are right now. Okay, this is too much. Okay, so Francesco. He's in Campania. Okay. I mean, the sauce was fine. Is it worth $13.50? No. And again, I am not sponsored by any of these people. I'm just reporting what's going on. If I were to do this again, I would have put more filling in my ravioli, and I would have tried to roll the dough thinner. I don't know if that was even possible, but I think it's always possible, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. This jar of tomato sauce, $13.50, and it's smaller than a jar of Rao's pasta sauce. I'm going to pass on it. January 4th, 2025. It was a Sunday. 11 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half and a frittata with leftover ravioli filling and avocado made at home. 2:30 p.m. Santitas white corn tortilla chips and salsa. 5:30 p.m. Frozen cheese pizza and mixed greens with Great Northern beans, avocado, parmesan, lemon, Jacobson lemon salt, and La Tourangelle olive oil made at home. 6:30 p.m. Dietz's milk chocolate triple dipped malt balls. One note, Dietz's, if you want to buy a bag of just malt powder to put on your ice cream, I would recommend Dietz's. It's in Ohio. My dad worked there as a child. We still get their stuff every year. This mixed green salad that I made, I had a version of this as a kale salad in a random bar in Bushwick like 12 years ago that really knocked my socks off. And that's really what I'm trying to create there. I mean, it probably was just a really normal salad, but I was like young. I really love Santitas white corn chips. They're cheap. They have a great texture. And I meant to look up this Jacobson lemon salt. My mom keeps buying me this Jacobson salt for Christmas. This is actually from last Christmas, but I never used it. Very large flakes. Harvested on the Oregon coast. Okay. Bespoke salt. In different flavors. Well, that's fun. Yeah, didn't really get a huge lemon flavor out of that, but do I have anything else to say? Probably not. I forgot to say this was my first episode of 2026. Happy New Year. Okay, bye-bye.